Yo, people, welcome back to another stream. And as you can see, I got two guests of me that are regulars on the cricket show or after the boundary show, as we like to call it. I got Mr. Reliable Money, and then underneath him, um, we don't like his teams, but we like him. Ben. We don't like China. Sorry, Ben. China love it. Does not go around there. Um, but yeah, um, that's most of that. Um, so yeah, but what you guys saying? Money, you good?
Yeah,
Excited?
all good, all good, all good. I mean, anytime I get to come on the cricket stream and talk, it's quite wonderful. I do remember speaking to a guy based in Malaysia about this, and he said that if possible, he might look to join. I don't know if he will be with us in the chat or the comments, but if we can get him to also join the show, it would be good. But anyway, it's a Monday, beginning of the week, a nice way to relax and. I am happy and looking forward. This coming Friday should be an absolute cracker.
Yeah, of course. If you don't know, the big Ashes Australia versus England are taking place this weekend. But Ben, of course, unfortunately, India
Country
didn't
and yet
win.
didn't one.
But how are you?
All good, all good. Really happy with Chennai winning the IPL, but yes, disappointed with India having lost the World Test Championship final. And it has been a dry spell for India since 2013, since MS Dhoni last won the Champions Trophy for India. So, so it's been pretty disappointing. But one day for sure, India will certainly win an ICC trophy. Maybe it may be this World Cup, maybe the next year, maybe the coming decade, or maybe after 28 years. But one thing for sure, they'll certainly win an ICC trophy. But for that, they need a proper clutch team performance, which India currently lacks in crunch games. So I'm pretty sure India will certainly win one day, and I'm uh, desperately waiting for that day. So yeah, that's what my thoughts are.
Hanno, I think you must have gone a bit silent, or maybe he's gone somewhere.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. India. I will bring up read you guys the stuff. So of course, yeah. Start of Australia. Of course, before we get into the scorecard and the match, that's me first. I just want to read you guys some stuff. Where is it? Where did I see it? I saw it somewhere. Um, let me just check. Where is it? Where is it? Um, why can't I saw it somewhere? But I can't remember. Um, but yeah, if I find it, then we'll get back to it. Um, but yeah. Um, so it um, so the day started off pretty. Pretty good for India. Of course, they won the toss, decided to bowl first, um, and it turned out well. They took 2 wickets for 37, putting Labuschagne and Steve Smith heading into lunch, and then got an early wicket of the lunch of Marnus. And after that, it was downhill for India. Mr. Steve Smith and Travis Head. Travis Head scoring 165 or 163. Um, yeah, scoring that that um see scoring that and then where is it? So coming up, yeah, I believe it was 100, yeah, 163. Steve Smith, 121. Of course, they dismissed Travis Head a bit earlier. More Suraj. I was really impressed with him, to be fair, in that first innings. Steve Smith, again, really good innings from him. Cameron Green, first ball, hits a four. Then disappointing. Alex Carey bring that stability, and again he always comes close to that 50 mark. Unfortunately, couldn't get there. Then Mitchell Stark run run out. Bad comments also, but I believe Mitchell Stark was came in did uh came in for Hazelwood, or
Yep,
did he start?
Hazelwood. I believe Stark was supposed to be the starter, but with Hazelwood getting injured, it was Boland who was drafted in.
Okay. Pat Cummins gets 9. Not his best performance. He struggled with the bat, but he's performed off the ball. Nathan Lyon, handy contribution from him. Scott Boland, we'll speak on him. Uh, yeah, Bargav, I'm going to start at 1. But team selection, of course, if we'll touch on India, um, they did not select Ashwin. That was the big one. They went with Umesh Yadav, Shami, Suraj, and Thakur. For me, I think Umesh Yadav, I don't think they should have picked him. I think if you put in there um, Mr. Mr. Ashwin ahead of Yadav, you got an extra batsman and you got that spinning option. And we did see in second innings um, what happened at what happened with Nathan Lyon picking up, I believe, 4 wickets that second innings. Yeah, 4 for 41, really good. And in the first innings he didn't bowl much, but he bowled 4 overs and picked up a wicket, so can't really complain. So yeah, um, that's my thoughts on the first innings. I think of Australia, of course. I think India, they started off well, but at the end, Australia, that big partnership, was that is now the record at the Oval, um, the highest record for the fourth fourth wicket. No, fifth or fourth wicket, I believe. No, fifth wicket partnership at the Oval. So yeah, I don't know what did you guys make of Australia's first innings. Let's go to money.
Yeah, that partnership, of course, for the fourth wicket was for 285 runs. Brilliant partnership, which completely took the momentum away from India, who definitely made the right decision to bowl first, but simply, as Parga has later said in the chat, they completely mucked it up with the team selection because while Mohammad Siraj and Mohammad Shami were doing their bit with the ball and getting the ball to, I mean, Siraj in particular was really working the left-handed batsman over. Neither David Warner nor Usman Khawaja looked particularly comfortable, and Shami also was, contributing and doing his bit. Umesh Yadav will look back on his performance and say that he was probably a little bit toothless. Ironically, he was a lot more economical than Siraj and Shami, but never really looked like troubling the batsman. And of course, some Thakur came in and also chipped in with a couple with just one wicket for the lone spinner, Jadeja. But again, if you win the toss and decide to bowl first, I think the idea was that India didn't want to. India obviously wanted to try to exercise the cloud cover and made sure that they had the advantage of conditions. But the thing about some of these green tops is that over the course of the day they tend to sort of settle down and become more batsman friendly. So you could say that Khawaja and Warner, and to an extent Labuschagne, were uh, martyrs, really, who sort of prepped Smith and Head for the challenges that came ahead. And then, of course, after they went, it was a case of really only Alex Carey doing himself any justice with India fighting back. But India are going to look at their team selection and say, you know what? Rather than having someone like Umesh Yadav who wasn't quite able to get his act together, maybe an extra spinner and would have done quite well. And certainly the way Ashwin bowls, he offers a lot more variation, which would have complemented Jadeja's left arm spin quite perfectly. And only those five bowlers were used. At least if Ashwin had come into the team instead of Yadav, for instance, you would have seen probably the same five bowlers, maybe a little bit more part-time spin. Even Akshay Patel, who I actually rate very highly as a left-arm spinner at Test level, if not at one-day level, why he was not considered and Jadeja was, I'm not too sure, because he's certainly a different sort of spinner to Jadeja and would certainly have controlled, have exercised a great deal more control. And even with Jadeja, he was economical at times, but again, not too effective. So this was definitely a case of India losing the initiative by not attacking the Australian off stump, not really, continuing to really put pressure on them. And I would say this, Hanno, if Australia had won the toss and opted to bowl first, then I can definitely say that India would not have reached 300, even 250 would have been a step too far. And India are going to look back on that and say we completely mucked up our chance by not taking advantage of the conditions even more.
Yeah, and Bhargav says, another pressure choke for India. I got awesome mentality, but to
That's
got
a
the
cheap
Indian fan,
shot, but he is an Arsenal fan, so at least he's willing to laugh at himself.
yeah. Ben, your thoughts on the Australia's first innings?
Yes, like as Mahi said, when Ravi and Mahi, India messed up their selection. Ravi, Ashwin, they could have picked Ashwin instead because Ashwin could have really made that difference and Ashwin could have stopped that big partnership of Travis Head and Steve Smith. As we all know, Ashwin is a very tactical bowler. He's very smart with his deceptive variations. So yes, he could have really put in some extra effort and just come up with that odd ball to break the partnership. And in my opinion, I also believe that India could have instead picked Ishan Kishan in place of in place of KS Bharat. So Ishan Kishan could have provided a really good counter-attacking option. And when Australia batted, it looked like a batting pitch, and when India came on to bat, it looked like a bowling pitch. So it was pretty shambolic from from India's top order. India's top order had to deliver. It was expected of them to put India in a stable position, but sadly they failed. So top order is the main area of concern. It's the top order. India need to get their top order sorted. The top order needs to get the top order need to get the acts together. So it was an all team performance by Australia, and we all know how clutch Australia are in knockout games. So it was a well deserved match for Australia, and India have been pretty consistent, as we see as we have seen in the 2 years of the World Test Championship cycle. But sadly, they fail in the crunch games, and we have a bad habit of bottling in the main knockout fixtures. But this performance was pretty disappointing as as an Indian fan. So yeah, it is what it is. We move on. So let's see. So we move ahead now onto the Ashes. That's what my thoughts are.
Yeah, but Ben, if you now like, about the first innings, now we're with India. I think you sort of previewed it. You said that the order was a bit with man Gill really a good start. Gill, Cheteshwar Pujara, in fact, were guilty of poor judgment when they just allowed a couple of in-swing deliveries to go past them and knock their stumps over. You could understand for someone like Gill, but for Pujara, who's already played over 100 tests for the country, um, you know, you would have expected better from him. Of course, with Ajinkya Rahane coming back into the team, he deserved a century, but was denied by a moment of brilliance from Cameron Green at, I believe it was Gully. But certainly the way he was able to play and tame some of the bowlers and also provide a terrific partnership of, I think it was 71 between him and Ravindra Jadeja, and another partnership of 109 between him and I want to say
Shardul.
Shardul, yeah, Shardul Thakur. So with Rahane, normally, as you know, he'd open. Now that he's number five and quite well, it's a bit because he used to open things for India, and India still might need a potent opening. How pleased were you with Rahane's innings? Do you think he being how him as a sort of number five?
So yeah, speaking of this, the speaking of Rahane's knock in the World Test Championship final, it has been a good comeback innings for him. But Rahane has been inconsistent as of late. Uh, it is just 1, 2 or good innings, then he's back to inconsistency. But still, Rahane, because of his experience, should be considered at number 4. But we'll have to wait and see who serves as a good replacement for Rahane. It was also expect, but can't blame Rahane. It was also because it was the fault of India's top order. Uh, Kohli was expected to go big. India needed that one big partnership, but couldn't get their acts together, unfortunately.
Right. And Hannah, maybe you can talk about the Australian second innings. I mean, the bowlers obviously did their bit for Australia with Cummins leading the way with 3 wickets. And then Boland in particular, we're going to talk about him later on, maybe once we get to the match. But why don't you give us your opinion on the Australian second innings? Because it looked a little bit choppy, I would say.
Look, I think Australian again. I think that a bit complacency
You
from
might
the Aussies,
louder, I
really.
can't hear.
Yeah, sorry. I think it should be right now. I think a bit of complacency, really, from Australia. Um, but then again, it is they knew they didn't have to get so many runs. You look a 4-1 from Labuschagne, that's fair. Um, Steve Smith 34, he would have wanted a bit more. He definitely would have wanted a bit more. Green chipped in with a few. Then that partnership of Kerry and Stark carrying it through. I think that partnership have carried it on, and that almost has now made it difficult for the Australian selectors. With Poland seems like he needs to start, but you also got Hazel. So who are you going to drop? It's between it's really between Stark and Cameron Green. But Green is that extra betting option. But we saw there, Stark can give you a bet, can be a betting option on his day. So he might now be on the chopping block, Stark. So yeah, it's going to be tough for the Australian selectors. It was sloppy, but at the end of the day, they knew they just needed to get what they got. Just like they just needed about not
Yeah,
even 200. I would say just a bit less. Yes, but in around 200, they probably should have gotten there. So yeah, that's my thoughts
yeah,
on that. Um,
yeah, and yeah. Go ahead.
no, no, that's all. That's all.
Yeah, so I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. It was basically once again a failure at the top of the order. You could say it was perhaps a little bit of complacency. I thought Warner's shot to get out to Siraj was absolutely horrendous, and Khawaja was starting to look in better touch, but gloving it behind to Bharat, the wicketkeeper, didn't really do him much good. And then a few nice innings from Labashane and Smith. Carey, of course, this time making a half century. Good initiative from him there. And of course, Mitchell Stark coming in. And the bowlers, once again, certainly toiling hard and trying hard. Siraj tiring a little bit. I think maybe in the second innings, the batsmen were starting to get a bit wise to him. But Shami proved himself to be a reliable workhorse. Umesh Yadav did pick up a couple of wickets. Namely Khawaja and Labuschagne at the top of the order. But I think since Ishant Sharma started to fade away a little bit, India have not really been able to produce, really, really consistent, top quality, really exciting bowlers, fast bowlers in particular, who could, really take out the who could bowl teams out almost by themselves. Shami is a fine workmanlike bowler, and certainly in both innings he played some really good shots and should have and could perhaps have maybe scored a half century if his partners didn't, let him down with some pretty poor shots themselves. And back to your question on Stark and Hazelwood, it could very. I don't see Cameron Green getting dropped because we all know, at least the Australian selectors know that he is a much better batsman than the shots he played showed. And even as a bowler, if we take a look at both his innings, I mean, to be honest, he didn't really bowl too much in a way. So it could very well be that they decide to sort of stick with him. And it could very well be, as you said, Hannah, between Stark and Hazelwood. And Stark was quite expensive. Yes, he did have a happy knack of picking up wickets, but he was also quite expensive, it had to be said. And that is something we will look into. But obviously, when it comes to India's second innings, and Ben, I'll come to you in a minute, Sharma did come good with a 43, but that should have been a 50. Virat Kohli with a 49, that should have been a 50. Ajinkya Rahane with a 46, it should have been a 50. And nothing much else afterwards. It was effectively a collapse. A little, not quite, I wouldn't necessarily say like Arsenal's collapse to lose the Premier League title, but if the shoe fits, then that's perfectly fine. So when it comes to India's batsmen, I agree that Rahane has been inconsistent, but the question I have for you is, I asked for you is, he should have a, I think he should have a role now to play at number five, and if he continues this form, certainly with how he's been playing in England and also how well he did for the Super Kings whenever he got the chance, you could say that he could very well be back in with a shout of continuing his career and reaching the 100 Test landmark. But some of the other big names failed to impress. And as for Shubman Gill, a lot was expected of him. And obviously, the absence of Rahul K. Lokesh, or KL Rahul as he is known, was another loss because, in addition to his batting at the top of the order, he also doubles up as a more than useful wicketkeeper. Do you see the likes of Shubman Gill, Shrikar Bharat, and others having a long term future in the Indian team? And what do you think needs to be done over here, Ben?
So, it was expected of Subman Gill to deliver, but he failed to capitalize on his good start. But surely they should be given chances. Speaking of Shrikar Bharat, uh, he was he was a second choice wicket of Rishabh Pant. Pant was always going to be the first choice wicket keeper for India, but Bharat only plays as a second choice wicket keeper. So Bharat hasn't failed. Bharat has failed to put up a good show. So it's all about giving chances to them. Surely they'll get good chances in the future if they deliver well and good. If they don't, then maybe India will have to look past them. But Shrikar Bharat is the main area of concern. He needs to get his acts together and really deliver. It was disappointing It was really disappointing to see Shrikar Bharat with the bat. But let's hope he gets his acts together in the near future.
Okay, and obviously back to the scorecard again. Every single Australian bowler except for Cameron Green contributed. Nathan Lyon there, of course, with 4 for 41. I think maybe if India had decided that if they had won the toss, they would bat first, then Ashwin as an extra spinner could have come in handy along with Jadeja. But maybe that's due to the strategy that they had that bowling first and taking advantage of the conditions would be the best thing to do. But clearly, the bowling attack needed a lot of improvement. And I think the fast bowlers, in summation, didn't take advantage of the conditions, and Australia just fought back magnificently and proved why they were the deserved winners. And of course, this will segue into the Ashes, which we're going to talk about. But I think one of the questions that was asked earlier, I think it will be between Hazelwood and Stark because Scott Boland has got to start. Certainly, the way he was able to exploit the conditions quite well, bowling consistently to a brilliant line and length. I believe at one stage when he was bowling, he was pretty much bowling nothing but dot balls, maidens everywhere, and in fact, in the first innings, he had something like how many maidens did he have? A total of 6 maidens in that when he bowled. Of course, Shami had the same in Australia's second innings, but Boland looks to be a very accurate attacking sort of bowler, and if he induces a mistake, it could be fatal. So he very well could be the starter for the Ashes, and we'll move into that. And a lot of things will be expected of him, especially since we're going to be talking about England's batsmen. Hannah, back to you.
Yeah, for me, Poland is a really good player. It's his left hard. He gets the ball to skid on. He has everything a bowler could want. And so I think, like you said, I think it's between Stark and Hazelwood. Might be Green, but I think Hazelwood is that one that is there. Between Hazelwood and Stark, and I might even drop Hazelwood for the first test. So yeah, Ben, your thoughts? You're muted.
Even I agree with you, Hannah. Boland is what you expect of a bowler, and I'm pretty sure he will debut in the Ashes. Hazelwood or some other other bowler of in the Australian lineup will get dropped for Boland, and Boland will definitely make a way into the playing 11. And he's been pretty good. He's been pretty incredible with the ball. Just with those tight line and lengths, he has been delivering every now and then, dot balls after dot balls, and then a wicket. So Boland surely makes a way into the Australian playing 11. To both. The connection seems to have disrupted.
Um, oh yeah. Yeah. I think on this connection just went there, but it's fine. Yeah. Um, just fancy. Well done, Australia, for winning, but coming for you Friday. Um, Barra says betting 5 to 10 was a night and day between in two sides. Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think the lower order of Australia that get better runs and more runs than the low order of India. I'm just going to wait for so load. If I can see him on stage on the screen, then I'll add him. And yeah, okay. So yeah.
Sorry,
So yeah,
guys. I think there was an electricity cut and I got logged out, but I'm back in on my
well,
mobile phone. So, what have you spoken of so far?
no, it's just about Poland. That's where Ben talks about it. And first, this comment: the low order of both teams being night and day apart. Australia's being really good and India being really bad. So yeah, that's most of that. And yeah, I think let's move on to the Ashes, of course. Big one for England and for Australia. Australia would want to retain. England would want to get it back. To so yeah. Let me get up the squads. Um, let me just get up. Um, so yeah, squads. Um, okay. Um, so just I believe it's the same squad of just with Matt Renshaw coming back in, but it's the same squad as the one in the Test series they had. So what I'm going to do is going to do
Hmm.
this screen. Mm,
It's surprising Renshaw will be coming back in, but maybe Australia might be looking at changing the opening combination because the Khawaja Warner combination in this match didn't really live up to expectations, sadly.
yeah, but England, of course, Captain Ben Stokes won early back into it after a few struggles after him saying he's gonna retire from Test cricket. So interesting to see him back. James Anderson, Johnny Bairstow, Stuart Broad, Harry Brook, Jack Crawley, Ben Duckett. I don't really like Ben Duckett, but fair. And Lawrence, I don't know much about him. Ollie Pope, Matt Potts, Ollie Robinson, Joe Root, Josh Tongue, Chris Oakes, Mark Wood. that middle order, I can't lie, that middle order for England is not great.
Yeah,
I
and
don't,
of
I've
course,
never
Moeen
heard of.
Ali has been brought back. Huh?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was just about to say that Moeen Ali was to be brought back as a replacement spinner for the injured Jack Leach, but he is also going to be expected to try and strengthen the middle order with his batting. So he comes back into the side as more of the spin bowling all rounder, and that could strengthen the team. Personally, I wasn't in favour of Moeen being brought back because when you make a decision to retire from a format like Test cricket, you've got to quite literally make sure that you stick to your decision because it's more of a mental thing than anything else. But I suppose it just goes to show the cupboard is probably bare when it comes to really talented spinners, although the likes of Liam Dawson and others were uh, thought of. But then they ended up being shunted in favour of Moeen Ali, who could end up getting, uh, I think, something like 200 Test wickets for England. I think, if memory serves me right, he's on 195. And then, of course, he could end up scoring about getting to another run landmark with England. I think 3,000 or something like that. So, yeah, and the top order obviously will look to try and be very aggressive. But as we've seen with these Australian bowlers and the way they've bowled, if they get their line and length right, they're going to be a bit of a handful. And this is where Stark's selection could very well be.
Annie, your sound is gone. Your sound is gone. Can't hear you. Uh, wait. Try now. Try now. Alright, you're muted now. Just unmute yourself.
Some reason.
Yeah, there
Okay,
we
can you
can.
hear me now? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
we can hear
So
you.
I'm going to try and come back via the PC as well. But I was saying that if Stark gets selected in the team with his propensity to sort of stray a little bit to either side, it will be a bit of a problem for Australia because these England batsmen at the top of the order, especially, are going to fancy themselves getting stuck right in. But if, of course, if Stark, like Mitchell Johnson, is a lot sharper on his day, then England will be in trouble. But I think Australia are probably going to go with the more accurate sort of bowling combination. In saying that, though, I thought that despite picking up a few wickets, Pat Cummins also had a tendency to stray down the leg, and he also had two wickets disallowed for no balls. So it's going to be interesting to see what sort of bowling lineup Australia will go with. The English batting approach will obviously be a little bit too. Will try to be aggressive and sort of play that way from the get go. But my biggest fear is that if they end up being stuck with some pretty accurate Australian bowling, will they have the patience to tough it out and then really start going for it later on? That's my biggest worry. So, I mean, obviously, the likes of Pope, a lot was made about his century, but look, that was a century against some pretty mediocre bowling, it has to be said. Ben Duckett also filled his boots. Joe Root could probably consider himself unlucky not to score a bigger knock against the Irish, but playing against Ireland was never going to be really accurate, really serious preparation for the Ashes. So England are going to have their hands full because, of course, they're taking on the world champions. I think the likes of Brooke and Crawley could have roles to play. Duckett definitely, but watch out for collapses. It wouldn't be an England team without a typical middle order collapse, and even Ben Stokes might. I mean, a lot will be expected of him to try to hold the middle order together. And if the pressure gets too much to him, then he can also hold out a bit. So England are going to have a lot of homework to do, especially with regard to how to tackle the Australian bowlers. And I think the Australian team in particular will really be looking to you know get stuck into the England batsmen. As far as England's bowlers are concerned, still Anderson and Broad. I think they will almost certainly retire from Test cricket after this Ashes series because I really cannot see them having the hunger to continue playing Test cricket for as long as they can. Even Alistair Cook decided that he couldn't didn't want to keep hacking it anymore, but he has since returned to Essex and started and kept on scoring runs. So this should be interesting, a very interesting series. I am very hopeful for England, but Australia are going to be very, very tough. And this could be a very big series for both countries and both captains.
Yeah, I think for me, for England, the top order is not the best of choices you got. You got Ben Duckett and Zach Crawley is probably your opening pair, and that's about it. That's a strong opening pair. Of course, then Joe Root and then Ben Stokes will come in. Then Bairstow. After Bairstow, Brooke. What? That's one, two, three, four, five, six. That's six. Six. Seven is Ali, and then um, yeah, seven is more Ali, and then you're into your bowlers probably after seven. So they got good depth, but the problem is when not all those guys can play all five tests. The probably look at openers that's going to start all those five tests. The middle order, not so much. So yeah, there's got to be
Yeah.
rotation inside that camp. So yeah, but Ben,
There,
your
there
thoughts on
could
that?
there could be. I mean, just before we get to Ben, let me say that obviously, as the home team, Australia will. I mean, England will obviously have a lot more players to choose from. I just fear that with the aggressive approach they're taking, there might not be that much in terms of technically correct batsmen who can truly play with respect, apart from maybe Joe Root. But I suppose in the past, whenever England have tried to select the correct batsman, they haven't exactly done too well. So as I said, these batsmen will have a role to play, and we're going to see how well they do.
Go on, Ben.
Yeah. So speaking of the upcoming Ashes series, it's going to be a really exciting series to look forward to. But I expect England to come out on top, as you all said that England squad look pretty unbalanced. But I think their approach is going to nullify that, and England are going to come out on top. As Stokes said, the English captain, as they are not going to play for draws. They are playing for results. So it's either gonna be victory or defeat. So my predictions are that this series will end up either 3-1, 3-2 to England or 4-1 to England. So we aren't getting to see any draws in this series. And speaking of the English batsmen, they are more suited to offensive play. So as they are more suited to offensive play, baseball is their go-to approach, and it is the approach they should really go about. People have been critical of the baseball approach. There have been cricketing pundits who have been doubting the baseball approach. But every approach has its pros and cons. Of course, playing to attacking might open chances for the Australian bowlers to pick up early wickets. But every every approach has its own pros and cons. Speaking of attacking cricket, yes, the disadvantage of an attacking cricket is that you that that the team might fall out early. And speaking of defensive cricket as well, that speak, even defensive cricket has its own disadvantage, which is if you're grinding for too many balls, it takes just one odd ball to get out. So because of that one particular odd ball, the entire build up goes futile if a team hasn't scored much runs. So every approach has its own advantage and disadvantage. But speaking of the English batsman, the more suited they are to offensive play, baseball, and the attacking approach is their go-to approach, and they should stick to it. And their approach, their attacking approach is what really makes them stand out, and their attacking approach outweighs their disadvantages. So I expect England to come out on top, but yes, it's going to be a challenge against the quality Australian bowlers. But we have seen them do it against quality sides like New Zealand, India, and South Africa. But yes, Australia are going to be a different kettle of fish. But we'll see what happens, and I expect England to come out on top. So that's what my thoughts are.
Me too.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be that comprehensive a scoreline. I think Australia will be determined to, make sure they set the record straight and really, come out, do well. This could be a much tighter series, and I think it will probably. Um, I could see England winning this 3-2 maybe if there are going to be no results. I mean, no draws. England to win 3-2, and Chelsea fan agrees with me.
Yeah. So we'll quickly do prediction for this upcoming match. Of course, for okay, let's do for the series. I'm going. There's always one game that rains out or something. So I'm going to say two. No. Um. 2 3-1. 3-1 to the Aussies. I think one of the tests are in Manchester right now. So yeah, Ben.
So my predictions for the series scoreline is it might not end in a draw. So it will be either 3-2 or 4-1 to England, or maybe, but I don't think so. But I don't see Australia winning the series. So it's 3-2 or 4-1 to England.
Okay, fair. Last time this was played in England, of course, we saw the Jofra Archer versus Steve Smith incident. Fortunately, we won't see potential redemption arc for Steve Smith against Archer. But yeah, quick one off topic: India running through West Indies with no pressure. Yeah, they should be. Of course, that is later in July. So yeah, this test prediction for test one, I'm going with Australia to win by 50 runs or by 3 wickets. Money. Muted.
Yeah. I want to take a look at the schedule and see where the first test is, in fact, being played. I don't think it's going to be at Lords. It's going to be at Edgbaston in Birmingham. So Edgbaston has been a pretty happy hunting ground for England in series gone by, and they've had some of their successes in Ashes series there too. I think this actually should be a win for England. I'm going to go if they bat first and Australia bat last. I'm going for maybe a 60-run win or a 6-wicket win for England. So not too different from your prediction, but a little bit more convincing.
Ben.
So if if England get to bat first, maybe they'll bundle out Australia and win the game by yeah, maybe 60 runs or so. Or if they chase, they might win it by 5 wickets. So that's what my predictions are. So England is winning the first test.
Fair enough, fair enough. Bangladesh facing Afghanistan. We'll quickly just give our predictions for that. We won't go too deep into it. Of course, tomorrow the one and only test starts. I'm going to go with Bangladesh to win that. Ben.
Yeah, yes, Bangladesh will win this one-off test. So that's what my
Okay,
prediction.
money. Money.
Yeah, so it's one test and three ODIs and two 2020 fixtures. I think, again, with Bangladesh's experience in the test arena, they should be able to win this one very comfortably indeed. I really don't see Afghanistan being able to launch a challenge either with the bat. I mean, with the ball, they will certainly try hard as they can, but they'll just come up a bit short. So, yeah, I can't look beyond the Bangladesh win either.
Yeah, fair. Um, so I'm just going to quickly go through some ICC World Cup qualifiers for this World Cup, and you just say a team who's going to win. Zimbabwe, Nepal. I'm going Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe. I can't look beyond Zimbabwe winning that one.
Ben.
Yeah, surely Zimbabwe.
West Indies,
But
USA.
I'm taking a look at the Zimbabwe squad. There's no Regis Chakabva, no Milton Shumba and Tony Manyonga either. No, Chakabva is a huge surprise. You'd think that his experience would put him in that team. Still, there is enough experience. I mean, obviously with Sean Williams, Sikandar Raza, Craig Irvine, Bradley Evans, and one or two others, but to not have Chakabva in that squad is a big risk. But going to Windies against the USA, I really can't look beyond the West Indies for this one. West Indies to win.
Yeah, same.
Yes, even I expect West Indies to win, but I want USA to win this and qualify for the upcoming ODI World Cup.
It would be fantastic to see the USA. Ireland versus Oman. Ireland should win that pretty easily.
Easy.
Anyone disagree?
Yeah, easy,
Sri
easily.
Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
Well, I've dropped Angelo Matthews for disqualifiers. Are playing the UAE. We'll still back Sri Lanka, but it will be tough for them. So yeah, to win against the UAE. Ben.
Yeah, so it is going to be Sri Lanka.
Sri
So
Lanka.
expect Sri
Money
Lanka to
good.
win.
Yeah, I can't look beyond Sri Lanka either. Too strong for the UAE.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do the. Okay, we'll do till the That's yeah, we'll stop there, and then we'll talk about the rest
Yeah.
later on. But yeah, that's the end of the show. Be up to yourselves. Um, let's the comments. England will win for series. Bangladesh. Yeah. See you next time. See you next time. Yeah, I believe got through every comment. Yep, everyone. 12 likes, much appreciated. So yeah. But yeah. Yep, everyone that's joined. Of course, join us for the Ashes. On Friday. I think we'll cover the last session. Or maybe a morning session, depending how the day goes, and our shows are planned out. So yeah, be a Ben, be a Bunny as always for joining, and yeah, we are out.